Okay, so let's just get rid of that pop-up and move back to the toolbox. I'll just close the HTML tag. We're going to have a look at some of the other controls now. We'll click on the standard item. And well, as you can see, there are a much richer set of controls available here. Each of these controls corresponds to an ASP.NET Web Control class and contains quite an extensive range of functionality, properties, and events to encapsulate much more intelligence. You can use these controls to put together web applications much more easily than using the corresponding HTML controls. So, for example, I could drag a text box control onto my form, like so, and I'll just tidy it up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, the text box control functionally has the same purpose as the input text control we added earlier, but it's an ASP.NET control as signified by the ASP prefix, and it corresponds to a class called TextBox in the ASP.NET class library. We'll have a look at this a little bit later, and we'll see some of the methods and events and properties available. While we're here, let's just take a look at some of the attributes we can set on this control. So I'll click the spacebar, and up pops the IntelliSense, and instantly you can see the difference. Whereas for our basic input control we had earlier, the list of properties was quite limited. Here we're spoilt for choice. We can set the background color for the property. We can set information such as theming. We can specify the border width, and so on and so on and so on. We can specify all number of attributes to do with fonts. We can specify the maximum length property, and also we have a rich set of server-side controls that enable us to handle user input via server-side code. So we'll have a look at how to handle some of these events, in particular the on-text change event, a little bit later in the next lesson. Okay, so hopefully at this stage you're starting to appreciate that whereas you can, if you want to, use some of the basic controls from the HTML tab on the toolbox, you get a much easier deal if you use the corresponding high-level controls such as ASP TextBox. Okay, so that's the TextBox control. We also have controls such as buttons and link buttons. A link button is quite an interesting control. It looks like a hyperlink, but when you click it, it generates a server-side click event as if it was a normal button. So it's like a cross, really, between a hyperlink and a button control. The image button, as its name suggests, is a button which you can attach a GIF or a JPEG or some other type of graphic. We have a regular hyperlink, and so on and so on and so on. So we'll be having a look at some of these controls in the next few examples. Okay, if I just scroll the list down a little further, you can see there are some quite high-level controls. So, for example, calendar. A calendar is a class and a control, and it enables you to present an entire calendar on the screen to the user. And ad rotator enables you to display adverts or commercials, rotate in between adverts on the screen. That's quite a nice little control you might want to have a play with if you get a moment. Okay, so we'll have a look at some of those controls in more detail later. Let me just close that tab there, and we'll have a look at some of the other controls.